Thank you.
You are what your deep driving desire is. As is your deep driving desire, so is your word. As is your word, so is your deed. As is your deed, so is your destiny. What is your deep driving desire? Is it, thou shalt love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself? That was Jesus' suggestion. The first great commandment. How do you define that deep driving desire? What is your deep driving desire? I am my deep driving desire. Together? I am my deep driving desire. As is my deep driving desire, so is my word. Together? As is my deep driving desire, so is my word. As is my word, so is my deed. Together? As is my word, so is my deed. As is my deed, so is my destiny. Together? As is my deed, so is my destiny. So here it is, Palm Sunday, and I'm quoting the Katha Upanishad from Hinduism. What am I doing? But what was he doing? Entering the city of Jerusalem. The Jerusalem represents spiritually the heart center of humanity. And his entry into Jerusalem was a piercing of the heart of humanity. A piercing, a deep driving desire, represented by the Christ of your nature, the Christ of your being, your higher self, your spiritual awareness, the yearning of your soul to pierce and enter that heart center and to confront the beliefs that are there in your heart center, to confront the beliefs that have set up lodging in the temple in Jerusalem, that heart center that wants to control everything. Jesus came into Jerusalem to confront the status quo. You are what your deep driving desire is, and I guess that could be comfortable, right? Never. Because your deep driving desire comes in and upsets the apple cart, overturns the money changers in the temple and all the tables, does what it needs to do in order to establish a new consciousness. As this new consciousness, represented by Jesus the Christ, enters into your heart center, into your Jerusalem of your heart, it confronts the belief systems established there, the familiar status quo, the oh, ain't it awfuls, the way it always has been. You know, I'm up here as a catalyst. I'm up here to challenge the status quo. It is not a popular position to be in. What did a rabbi say? He said, we're not here to comfort the afflicted, but to afflict the comfortable. and he was quoting the Talmud, which said any rabbi whose congregation doesn't want to drive him out of town is failing as a rabbi. And then he said that it says that when the Messiah comes, he'll make everybody so angry they'll want to break his windows. That's also in the Talmud. But there is that aspect of your being that is entering into the city of Jerusalem of your heart that is ready to upset the status quo. And you say, oh, I don't want that. I just want to be comfortable. Well, good luck. This is Holy Week. Everything is timing. You can't get too far ahead of it. You can't get too far behind it. Too far ahead of it, and you're like Judas. Too far behind it, and you're like Peter. You know, Judas and Peter are the polar opposites among the disciples. Peter told Jesus, don't ever go into Jerusalem. You know, we're out here in the hinterland. We're out here in the periphery of things. Things are very comfortable. We got it going. We can go to the little villages and the towns. We're not really challenging the status quo because they really don't know what we're saying out here. It's okay. We're safe. I'm going to keep it safe. Together, don't. I'm going to keep it safe. We're going to keep it safe. And you know what? That was Peter's role. That's why he represents faith of all the disciples, because he was that aspect of faith that resists taking a step in faith and then finally does. He represents that part of us that holds back, that wants to hold back. I remember, and I think I've shared this, when I was 1984, I went to Hawaii, and only one time in my whole life I ever surfed. And I was staying there in Waikiki, and somebody told me about this guy. His name was Rabbit. And if you gave him $10, he'd teach you how to surf. Several years later, I'm reading a book on Hawaii, and it says that Rabbit was the world's greatest teacher of all the great surfers, all of them. He was like the mega teacher, but he's just hanging out on the beach for $10. He teach you how to surf. So I didn't know who he was, but he was disgusted with me. We paddle out there, and there are times that the wave comes in, and I get ahead of the wave, and I fall off my surfboard. And so there are other times the wave comes, and I'm holding back, I'm scared, and I'm behind the wave, and I fall off my surfboard. Finally, after numerous attempts, and he's really kind of agitated with me, I catch the wave. I catch the wave, and at just the right moment, I stand up, and I go onto the beach like this, right up onto the sand. And my friend heard him say, "That guy, he surfed like an Egyptian." The secret is timing. You don't want to get ahead of the wave. You don't want to get behind the wave. And this is what Jesus did. His timing was perfect because Peter wanted Jesus to go in, to hold back and to play it safe, to withdraw, to try to do that which was comfortable, familiar, and safe. It was a good thing. I mean, you know, it was a beautiful life. But what did they say? A competent caterpillar. A caterpillar is very competent at what it does. When that yearning comes into the caterpillar, which is the Palm Sunday experience for something more, it has to enter the Good Friday experience, which is the chrysalis, which is that, I don't know, that mystery, that incompetence, because the competent caterpillar becomes an incompetent butterfly. You're really good at being a caterpillar, but are you satisfied with munching leaves? Are you ready to spread your wing? So, Judas represented, let's go into Jerusalem first. And he wanted to go in there early because he was the forcing of the personal will. The exact opposite of Peter. And these are the two parts of our own egos that we have to balance out. The Peter wants to hold back and say, no, too cold, too hot, too something, don't want to do it. I'm going to keep it slow, I'm going to keep it easy, I'm going to keep it safe, I'm going to keep it the way it was. Can't we just keep everything from changing? Can't we just make everything stay the same forever? It's so comfortable. Judas, on the other hand, is like, I'm going to force my personal will in order to get what I want. He wanted Jesus to show his magical powers, his incredible powers that he'd seen over and over again in order to smite the Romans and smite the chief priests and Pharisees and establish a theocracy and set up a kingdom. And Judas would happen to be the treasurer and make out pretty well. It's the personal will that wants to force things. But what is the answer? The answer is to catch the wave. You are what your deep driving desire is. Not your ego's yearning, but your deep driving desire is. Not your desire for safety, but your deep driving desire. What is that deep driving desire? It is a vision. It is a vision. You can tell the difference between your vision, that desire, and your agenda. Do you have a vision or an agenda? An agenda is going to lock you down in a specific thing. I know, I want this, and I wanted this, and I want this, and I want this. It's Peter wanting the periphery, all the little villages, wanting everything exactly this way. But your vision expands you. So you'll know the difference between a higher vision, that deep driving desire, and an agenda, which is a lesser thing. By the fact that your vision expands you and is all-encompassing and moves you into a higher place. It means often moving from one familiar level of expression to another. As good as that expression was, my dad, it's been decades in Unity. Every morning he would do his affirmations, and he'd say his affirmations silently that he'd gotten from Silent Unity for 15 minutes a day, and it was wonderful. But my dad suffered from terrible migraines all his life. He had a lot of pain that he had held in his subconscious mind. His father was an alcoholic who committed suicide. His mother was a drug addict who also committed suicide, and he found her body. He was raised by the women who in her family, and his father, when he had to take custody of him, shipped him off into the military school, and my dad went on to become a colonel in the army. I mean, he did the best he could with that, but he was a gentle spirit. But there was a lot of pain. In the last 5 years of his life, he exercised his deep driving desire. Although he'd been in this spiritual teaching for decades, he moved from just doing his simple affirmations to actually meditating. You know, the Spindrift study of the effect of prayer on yeast cells. They actually did a clinical study on how prayer works effectively or not effectively. They found that the most effective form of prayer was meditation. The second most effective prayer was affirmation. And that's where my dad had been stuck for many years. But he moved it up one level. The third most effective prayer is what they call petition. It's asking, and it was effective enough, not as much. And the only one that had a negative effect was begging, beseeching. And that actually had a negative effect on things. Affirmation is a powerful form of prayer. And if what you're doing now is beseeching or begging, or if you're just asking and petitioning, that's all good. But move it up to affirmation. Affirmation means to make firm. All things whatsoever you ask for in prayer, believe that you've already received them and you will. That's that affirmation. But then there's another level, which is meditation. What is your deep driving desire? How can you bring it into play? How can you bring it into expression? You have to take action. You know, I knew Edwina Gaines when she was poor. We were classmates, and she was poor, she was broke, there was no food in the house, she had a teenage daughter, and her teenage daughter came to her and said, "Mom, what are you going to do about this? There's no food in the house." And she said, "I'm going to go into meditation." And her daughter said, "Oh!" And then walked out the door. Phone call came. It was the local supermarket. They said, "You have won this incredible several $100s worth of food." And she just started crying, and her daughter came in, and she said, "Young lady, you should join with me right now in giving thanks to God for providing for us." And she says, "Well, you're thanking God. Thank God for your daughter who went down to Safeway and filled out all the forms for the drawing, 50 or 60 forms. Take action. Take action, but take action spiritually. You are what your deep driving desire is. Have a focused surge of divine energy. Move with this energy. Move with it. But are you willing to? The story begins. The Passover was coming. Many were looking for Jesus to show up at the temple in Jerusalem. What do you think he's going to do? Do you think he's going to come to the feast, they asked? The chief priests and Pharisees had ordered anyone who knew his whereabouts to tell them so they could arrest him. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think that that spiritual nature within you is going to come forward? Yeah, there's some uncertainty there. Are you willing to take that step? Are you willing to enter? And then there's the next step. How did he enter? You know, when Bismarck, Otto von Bismarck, entered Jerusalem when the German armies came in the late 19th century and conquered Jerusalem at one point, they entered with gigantic steeds and great wagons and an incredible cavalry. But Jesus didn't do that. He entered on the back of a donkey. Jesus told two of his disciples, "Now go into that village over there and untie the first young donkey you find that's never been ridden. And if anyone asks, just say, 'The Lord needs it,' and they'll let you go." And that's exactly what happened. So Jesus entered Jerusalem, and the people placed palm fronds on the road in front of him and cried, "Hosanna! Save us, O Son of Israel!" The Pharisees told Jesus, "Will you tell those disciples of yours to just shut up?" And Jesus answered, "If they keep quiet, all of these stones will begin to scream it." Then all the little children started in as well, and the chief priests became hot with anger. And they said, "Don't you even hear what these children are saying?" And Jesus said, "Yes, and haven't you read in the Psalms that only babies and little infants can give the most perfect praise?" First of all, it's a donkey. It's humble. There's a humility involved. And it's also new. Looking at your life with new eyes. It's never been ridden on. And you don't really know. You say, "How do I do this? I don't know how to do this." And I always find it so healing and so nurturing to say in my prayer, "God, I don't know how to do this. So you know how to do this, so do this through me. I don't know how to love this person. I don't know how to do this thing, but you know how. So let me do it like that." Moving into that awareness. It means a spiritual awakening. It means moving from the specific to the greater, the broader, the vaster. Moving from an agenda to a vision. You know, I often talk about my sister and her birth defects when she was born and how my mom prayed for her. But it's interesting, my mom did not pray for the specific. She thought what she wanted was her healing of her daughter. And that's a good beginning. But what she really wanted and what she professed was a great spiritual awakening. Her prayer was, "You are God's whole and perfect child, aglow with God's light, life, and wisdom." There's nothing about the condition there. And she took that prayer. And as a result of that condition that seemed to have a need, I'm a Unity minister. That's what happened. I know a Unity minister who's at headquarters, Paul Hasselbeck. And the way he got into it was that he was a dentist in the Navy, I believe. And he accidentally pricked his hand with a needle that he'd used for Novocaine. And the person had AIDS and didn't know it. And he caught AIDS. And as a result, he found out about Unity and started using this before the days of AZT and all these kind of things where people actually, and it all disappeared from his body. And he became a Unity minister. What is the condition in your life that you think you're meeting the need of? But the truth is what you're really looking for is a spiritual awakening. I shared last week about my meditation teacher, Jane Elizabeth Hart, talking about the many pots on the burners. You know, like it's a stove with 6 burners, and I got 6 pots on there, and they're all overflowing, and I fix one, and then I have to fix the other, then I have to fix the other. She says, "You're running around trying to keep all the pots from overflowing. Turn them down. Deal with the cause." Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom, and all the things will be added unto you." Begin the practice. Make it real. You are what your deep driving desire is. Jesus called it the treasure in the field. He said there was a man who discovered a treasure in a field, dug it up, reburied it, got all the money he could, sold everything he had, and he bought that field so he could have that treasure. That spiritual consciousness, that next step in your spiritual awareness, however you define it, that is your deep driving desire. That is the thing that will transform you. That is that first stage in the 3-step process of Holy Week. And Holy Week, remember, is 3 steps. What do you desire? What do you want? What's in the way? And what are you going to do about it? What do you want? What's in the way? And what are you going to do about it? Palm Sunday is what do you want? That's that first force. What's in the way is what we're going to talk about on Good Friday. And a lot of people skip Good Friday, because we don't want to deal with what's in the way. You know, it's not real comfortable, but we made it easy on you. We're going to have dessert afterwards. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down, so we're going to have a lot of fun, and it'll be real nice. And I see it as one of the most inspiring holidays ever, because it's about the releasing of the limitations, the limited self, so that we can birth that new awareness. But it has to start with the piercing of the heart, with the deep driving desire, with your will, your focused will, a focused surge of divine energy entering your heart and piercing that which is there and challenging the belief system that's there, that's been running you all your life. Having the strength, having the willingness. And you say, well, how do I generate that will? How do I generate that energy? Ask for it. It's a deep driving desire. So you've got to want it. And to want it, you've got to know that you don't have it yet. It's the caterpillar is very competent at being a caterpillar. It has no idea how to be a butterfly. So you can say, I don't know how to do this. But I know I want it. I want it, I want it, I want it. Together? I want it, I want it, I want it. I remember many years ago when I was doing a prosperity course like we're going to be starting in a couple weeks, and there was an affirmation, I am prosperous, they said 200 times a day, and this woman had a 2-year-old daughter, and they said it together every day, 200 times, I am prosperous. The daughter would go, I pop it, I pop it, I pop it. And then she looked at her daughter and said, do you know what that means? She said, yes, Mom. What does it mean? Cookie. And they went down to the local supermarket and the next day, and they're going along with the shopping cart, the daughter's sitting in the shopping cart, and the person behind the bakery counter says, could you come over here for a second? And they came over, she says, do you let her eat cookies? Yeah. Well, we overbaked today and brought out a big bag of cookies, because they'd accidentally overbaked 2 batches, and handed it to the daughter who was 2 years old and wasn't at all surprised. You are what your deep driving desire is. You think that what you want is a healing for your daughter like my sister, or a healing of your body, or a healing of conditions, or peace of mind, or to overcome some kind of negative ego state or something. But what you really want, seek first the kingdom, and all these things will be added unto you. So let's join together in prayer. So right where you are, just stop right where you are. Just stop whatever you're doing, stop whatever you're thinking, stop whatever you're experiencing, and just take a moment. I am what my deep driving desire is, and I seek first the kingdom, and all the things will be added unto me. God, I don't know how to generate this deep driving desire, but I do know that it is a yearning of my heart for something more. I am willing, and I'm willing to be willing. I focus with a great surge of faith. I focus my will. I seek first the kingdom. I love with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. I pierce that heart of mine. I enter into the Jerusalem of my heart. Whatever I think I want, whether it's a healing or a physical need or a prosperity need or a harmony or peace of mind or anything, I think I want it, but what I really want is a spiritual awakening. I am what my deep driving desire is, and so it is. Amen. By the way, I don't think I finished my story about my dad. He started meditating every day, went deeper, and his migraines all went away. He did his forgiveness work with his parents, and it all went away, and he spent his last 5 years free. So the effects roll out if you want the deep driving desire. Take a great big breath and let it out. And honor the need for everyone around you by giving them a great embrace of love and quiet. Share with them your caring and your concern from your heart. Because we're embarking on Holy Week. Holy Week, which begins with that focused surge of divine energy, of faith-filled, focused will, moving ourselves into our heart center. Jerusalem represented the heart center of humanity, and Jesus' entry on Palm Sunday 2,000 years ago symbolizes the piercing of your and my heart through a focused surge of spiritual energy. Imagine as you gather your will and make your choice and focus your will, that you are piercing your heart and entering therein and confronting and challenging all the false beliefs that are there. And with a great positive surge of enthusiastic energy, of faith, of love, a great deep driving desire. You are establishing a new reality for yourself. I am what my deep driving desire is. As is my deep driving desire, so is my word. As is my word, so is my deed. As is my deed, so is my destiny. I enter the Jerusalem of my heart with the humility of Jesus on the back of a young donkey that had never been ridden. And with the great surge of powerful energy of the children and the people shouting Hosanna. There may be something in my life, I might think it's a healing or a physical need, a harmony or prosperity or something, a healing. What I really need is the entry into my heart of this deep driving desire of of something more. The spiritual energy of Palm Sunday. What is my deep driving desire? Whatever I think it is, it's always more. More of God, more of love, more of peace. And all of my needs are met as I enter my heart and pierce it with this deep driving desire. I seek first the experience of God, the kingdom, and all my needs are met in that. I am what my deep driving desire is. I generate the will, the energy, the light that will answer my every need and every heartfelt true desire. Make your commitment and make your triumphal entry into your heart and feel the response. I am what my deep driving desire is. As is my deep driving desire, so is my word. As is my word, so is my deed. As is my deed, so is my destiny. This focused surge of spiritual energy, love, focused by my will, lifts me up, lifts up all conditions. Thank you, God, for the divine solution to every perfect problem. I offer you my willing heart. I offer you my willing heart. I offer my willing heart. And so it is.